right, let's get started. I think we're recording. Hi, Leah.
Hi, Kyle. Nice to see you.
Welcome, everybody. This is the 673rd annual AI Salon. I think it's
like 12 years of technology in 3 months.
12 years of technology in a month and a half. Yeah. The last 2 weeks in particular have been chock full of crazy announcements, and then on top of that, business has been really hard. So I'm wasted. How are you doing?
I think you just summed it up really well. That's exactly right. And every day I just show up and I say, okay, this is we're gonna learn today and what's gonna happen. Things are changing so rapidly.
Yeah.
It's a wild ride. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah. So welcome to the salon. We are a community of people curious about AI that like to explore it. Leah's going to talk a bit about the salon in a second. Up until last week, we were called the AI Artist Salon, and if you've been paying attention, which I know you have, we changed our name to the AI Salon. And I did that for a couple of reasons. My intent from the beginning was always that artist in AI Artist Salon was kind of artist with a small a, meaning anyone who's creatively expressing themselves. So whether it's engineering or writing or pictures or this or that, but because generative art is so prevalent and so visible, it feels like it kind of limited, potentially the scope of the group. So this group has always been intended to be kind of as wide a net as possible, just anyone generally interested in AI. So that's why we made the change. I would encourage you to, if you know people who are interested and curious about this stuff, to please spread the word so we can get as many people out there as possible. I deeply believe that as individuals, we're going to have a dramatically positive impact if we actually get involved with this AI stuff rather than let AI happen to us. And so that's kind of the big purpose of the salon, is to get curious, dig in, and disrupt yourself before you get disrupted. So I know we'll talk more about that later, but Leah, why don't you talk about what the salon is? And
yeah, I think something else, when you and I said, let's do the salon, we weren't exactly sure what we were creating. And one of my favorite things about the salon is the intersection of people who do all kinds of different creative work and then other work as well. And we all come together and have these really interesting conversations with different perspectives. I think there's a lot of communities where the artists are, or the CEOs are, or the marketers are. But I don't know a lot of communities where people are coming from all different backgrounds and stories, and we're all coming together. And those intersections are really the most exciting for me. And it's not just art, it's all kinds of disciplines. So one of the things we wanted to establish is, what are our values? As a salon, why are we here? What are we doing? And I'm going to copy and paste them, if I can do this slickly, into the chat so that we can talk a little bit about how are we approaching why we do what we do. And stand by while I paste it. I was hoping to have that done.
I'll share my screen so we can see them on screen.
Okay, well, if you share your screen, I don't have to paste them into the chat. Okay, great. So the first one is curiosity. And I think curiosity is really kind of at the heart of what this is. This is why we started it. We're curious, right? We want to know more. We want to show up with more questions than we have answers for. And we do that every single day and learn so much. So curiosity is our first basic value. The second is generosity. So we want to share what we know, and we want to support each other, and we want to support everyone. Generosity comes from something that might seem obvious to you is going to be something brand new to someone else, especially coming from so many different disciplines. And it's that generosity of spirit and that generosity of sharing where I think those intersections start to get very, very exciting. Exploration. We're here to try new things and take risks and embrace it. None of us really know what we're doing because every single day it changes. And just when we think we have it down, just when we think, yes, we know how to do that, a tool comes up and disrupts it, or something else disrupts it. So we're always exploring, or we're always trying new things. Collaboration. Work together on things. Let's come together and let's come up with new ideas, something even greater than any of us individually. And I think, again, that's where that intersection happens and really exciting things happen. Inclusion. Everyone's invited. Please come. The more diverse our backgrounds, the more diverse our experiences, the more interesting everything we're talking about is going to be. And empathy. AI has great and profound potential to change the way we are as humans, as we are with each other, as we are as a culture. Empathy is about being mindful of the impact of this work on others and our community. And also to create work that is respectful and meaningful. Bring some intention to it, some higher values. We're going to see remarkable things happen. And we want to look at how that helps us as humans and makes us more human. Act from compassion.
Yeah. It also means don't be a jerk.
Well, yeah. Don't be a jerk for sure. But I do think that I think AI is a particular technology that needs to be met with empathy. And I think that's within our group, and I think that's on a much, much bigger scale. I think that's going to determine the future of humanity, is whether or not we're able to work with this technology from a place of empathy.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, I think the level of disruption, having empathy for what everyone's going through is going to be really important, right? Because the changes are going to be profound. Okay, so let's do a little bit of housekeeping here. So if you're new here, we've got these meetings, which I said are recorded, so you can go back and see past ones. We also have a Discord server, so if Ken or Leah can post the Discord link in the chat, that would be great. The Discord server is where you kind of geek out, so you can make images in there, you can talk about things, you can do chat GPT within the server itself. There's often some good meaty conversations going on in there. And then we've also got a LinkedIn group where you can share news and business, kind of future of work kind of stuff. So go do those. For the meeting today, just because we've got a lot of people with a lot of ideas. If you want to say something, raise your hand. It's the little center icon on the bottom, the little hand. And Ken is our referee. Where are you, Ken? Say something so they can see who you are.
Hello, I'm here. I'm the guy with the cherry blossom background.
Exactly. So Ken's the best, and so when we do intros, for example, we'll give you a minute. He'll keep you on track, so we don't go over, and it just keeps things a bit timely. So Ken's super at that. And then we're going to try something new in this meeting, which I'm really excited about. Lee and I are super excited about it. For the last hour of the meeting, we're going to do what we're calling AI Confessionals. So we're going to give everyone a 5-minute window to talk about something that you've recently done with AI, or something that you've learned, or an insight that you've had. And if you want to share something, you can. So I'm telling you about it now so that you can think about what that might be. Leah will model for us. She'll do the first one. She had an interesting week with AI, and so she's going to be jumping in with that. So that I'm really excited about. So we'll do AI Confessionals at the end. And then we'll have Douggy Pledger is going to be speaking shortly. But as always, I think it's important, back to the empathy thing, that we get to know one another. So what I'd like to do is just please raise your hand if you're willing to introduce yourself. And in your case, maybe come around to my camera here, because that camera won't change because that microphone.
Because the microphone, yeah.
But yeah, just introduce yourself. Just tell us. You have 60 seconds. Tell us who you are, what your background is, and why are you here, or what is it about AI that you're excited about?
Do you want to start there in Denver or virtually?
Yeah. Hold.
Hey, I'm David Mondragon. I work at a company called Invoke. We do speech recognition. So the core of how things are built are machine learning. We have rescoring of HLD, standard sort of old school types of models. Rescore those with neural nets. I've been at the company for about 20 years, and we've been doing machine learning for at least a dozen of those years. Building large language models ourselves, on the order of 6 gigabytes of memory being used. These are massive ones. So anyway, to get the speech recognition right, that's how we're doing it. But we also have been focusing on looking at phone unit networks or letter networks, other types of technologies that will scale that down to small devices, much like Google or others do that. Ours is specific to healthcare technology, healthcare space. So not consumer types of things. So anyway, that's me. Good to meet you. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Anyone else in Denver that wants to go, or
No,
move into
it's just
virtual?
us two. Just us two.
Okay. All right, Charles Brewer, you're up.
Hello, everyone. First time dialing in. My name is Charlie Brewer. I'm a user experience designer and product manager based in San Francisco. I got started with digital design 25 years ago at this company called agency.com, founded by this dude named Kyle Shannon. I've been, since then, working inside companies, large and small, leading design teams. I specialize in large marketplaces and platform design, but I also work with startups, and including I've had my own. And currently I consult, and my project right now is redesigning the website and mobile app for UCLA Extension. Very happy to be here, very curious about AI and what it means. Maybe there's another 25 years of fun ahead.
I think and then some, but yeah, welcome.
All right, thanks, Charlie. Jeff Gray, you're up.
Hello, I'm Jeff Gray. I am working on an artificial intelligence and apparel project. It's more of an API tool that I'm working on with some developers to help people, create art and put it on apparel. So that's what I'm doing, and I'm very excited for my third meeting.
Or anything you'd like to share about the creepy clown on that black shirt behind you?
That is my first test print. It's a creepy clown. Huh?
Nice. That is creepy.
I like
Awesome.
It worked.
All right, thanks for sharing, Jeff. Eric Sander, you're up.
Hi, everyone. I've been here a couple times, but never said anything. I don't know what I am. So basically, the values of the group are very close to my values. Wait, can you guys hear me? Because all of a sudden, all the sound cut off. Okay, that's super weird.
We can hear you.
All right, thanks. Right, so curiosity, empathy, generosity, like these are things that I believe in and try to practice. Right now, I was an artist for a long time. For like 2 decades, I had an art career, and I did infoviz and visual storytelling for a couple of decades in the corporate world. And I moved out to rural Pennsylvania. I would have 5 seconds left. I'm doing marketing for a farm right now, but I want to use AI to somehow make something better in the world. I don't know what, but that's what I want. So good to meet you all.
Perfect. Thanks, Eric. Oscar, you're up.
As my microphone was off. Hi, my name is Oscar Aird. Let's see. I hang out here sometimes in this community. I also am the lead moderator and content curator at this Facebook community for AI generated art. It's called AI Generated Art. I'll drop the link in the chat. In addition to that, I do a lot of research now on AI, not just the art side of stuff, but applied things. Now it's more along the lines of like chatbots and building functionality into AI to get stuff done in the real world, not just within like the hallucinating idiot god. But beyond that, just here to learn and to help and to collaborate.
Perfect. Thanks, Oscar. All right, Kate Doherty.
Yeah,
You're
hi,
up.
I'm Kate. I'm actually in Denver too. I do a bit of photography, amateur photography. I've sold some images on Shutterstock. I'm looking to get into prints. I'm a technical writer by trade for a software company, and ChatGPT has already been pretty helpful in different scenarios for work. And I'm really just curious more than anything.
Great, welcome.
All right, thanks. Welcome, Kate. Eric Rowland, your turn.
Hi, I'm Eric. My company is Enable AI. We do data mining, mainly focused on marketing and legal. And so have to use statistics, machine learning, a whole bunch of different stuff to make that work. But trying to stay current on everything. And so, yeah, I want to share in the 5 minutes later because I'm doing a lot of retooling right now. So anyway, excited to be here. Love all the speakers, and it's a great resource. So thank you.
Welcome, Eric. And anyone else that wants to introduce themselves? Okay, we got Drew Wilkins. You're up.
Hi, everyone. This is my first time at the AI, formerly known as AI Artist Salon, now AI Salon. I'm coming in from the Metro New York City area. And my background is, I guess, generally speaking, figuring out ways to take technology and creativity and apply them to business problems. And that's mostly been at consulting firms. When I was first discovering the internet in 1995, I started a company that we figured out a way to build basically a website builder in a box. And we sold it to a company called MindSpring, which was purchased by a guy named Charlie Brewer in Atlanta. And then right after that, I moved to New York City, where I worked for a firm called agency.com, founded by a guy who was remarkably like Kyle Shannon, but he had more color.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Possibly be the same guy. And I was a strategist there, doing the same thing. A lot of my career has been in marketing, but basically, mapping business problems, business needs to creativity and technology. And I started realizing that machine learning and really the modern AI, I guess, sort of felt to me a lot like the internet.
So
I'm
much.
not sure if it can't quite, I don't want to go as far as to say quite as big, but could be as big. I mean, it feels big. And so I dug into it, did just what I did with digital and said, how does this work? So I enrolled in an MIT course, and I'm building some models right now, and mostly on the analytical AI side, not the generative side. But I wanted to kind of get a feel for what was going on, what creative people like you guys are doing with the generative side, and because that's where the fun happens. So I'll see where things go. I'm consulting right now, so I have a lot.
Awesome. Thanks, Drew. We appreciate it. Welcome. Anyone else that wants to introduce themselves?
Yeah, for anyone that's known, just raise your hand and please say hi. I saw you sneak in, Laura Rich. Maybe you could say hi. Anyone else? Please raise your hand and introduce yourselves.
Looks like John, you're up. I'm
Oh,
not sure
you're
how to
muted,
spell.
John.
I'm not sure about the pronunciation of the last name, but John, you're up. Time.
He's muted. Can't hear you, John.
Now we can hear you. Oh, sorry, you're still muted, John.
You can do it, John.
There you go. You should be able to talk now.
No. Can't hear you.
We can't hear
You might need to log out and log back in, John. It looks like your computer's not cooperating. All right. Anyone else want to say hi? We'll wait for John to jump back in.
Okay, Megan Jawson, go ahead.
Yep. Okay, hello everyone. It's been a couple meetings since I've been able to join, so I thought I'd just reintroduce myself. My name is Megan Hosen, and I am currently the brand marketing strategist at Curentus. And as you might be able to tell from my job title, I'm very much interested in the strategic side of marketing. But obviously, marketing strategy doesn't really mean anything without the tactical execution. So I'm really interested in trying to see how AI can kind of help speed up, make the tactical executions easier, so that I can focus more on what I'm mainly interested in, which is the strategy portion. So really just here to learn and explore, the very wide world of AI. I'm very excited to learn us alongside everyone.
That's great. Welcome.
Perfect. Welcome. All right, John, you want to give it another try?
All right. Am I back on? Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Yep, we can hear you
Great.
now. All right.
Okay, great. So I'm a freelance creative director in New York City. And as a freelancer, I'm super excited at the possibilities of what AI can do to help me. And I've been playing around with making images and creating scripts and all those things. But I'm also very excited to kind of learn about how AI can be a force for good. It can be a very empowering tool, and everyone's talking about it, creating efficiencies and scaling businesses and do all this kind of great stuff. But, my pet peeve basically is cynicism. So how can we make, something good and something worthwhile in AI? So I wonder if there's, what are the products that are out there, for example, that individuals can use to, increase their privacy online, or privacy in general. It seems, AI seems like one of these great David versus Goliath tools that can be really empowering in that way. Maybe there's other things, but just, trying to find out, besides kind of the, let's make money, let's do some cool stuff, let's like make our life easier so we can, I don't know, sleep more. What can we do that's actually, positive in the world, or that's going to make people happy or look forward to something? So that's where my curiosity lies, but also kind of the delight. I was just writing scripts with ChatGPT today, and some were awful, but some were just such a delight. In the voice of Raymond Chandler, it was great. Anyway,
All right.
that's
Welcome, John. We appreciate it. And
Great.
with that, I will pass it back to you, Kyle.
All right. Any last takers to say hi? We don't bite. Well, sometimes. No. All right. Great. So I'm excited to introduce our guest speaker, Douggy. I'll call him Doug. But he's if you go to Douggy.com, you can see his site. Doug Pledger is an artist and has a really interesting background. I'll let you introduce yourself, Doug, but I'm really excited to have you here. Yeah, right. You and I had a fun chat last week, I think it was. And if nothing else, you've got some lovely background behind you that looks like it's kind of analog rather than digital like the rest of us.
Yeah.
But without further ado, please take it away. I'm really excited.
Okay, well, thank you. And hello, everyone. It's I'm speaking from outside of North London in the UK, and it's 12:30 at night over here. So apologies if I start flagging a bit, but I'll keep up as long as I can. I work for the BBC. I'm a creative there, so I do all sorts of things from editing to coming up with ideas. I do a lot of stuff on Doctor Who and a mixture of their shows. So I'm sort of bouncing around all over the place there. But outside of that, I do a lot of illustrating and cartooning and filmmaking, and a real mixture of garbage. And I've been doing that ever since I was a little kid. My dad's a wildlife artist. He's I'll share my screen, and I press my entire screen. Okay, that and then that. Okay, we tried this earlier and it worked. So is this gonna work?
Yeah, I think we're good.
Yeah. So my dad is still is wildlife artist, and he does these wonderful paintings of birds. shit, nothing's going to work now, is it? Yeah, so he does all these, and he works traditionally, and he's been doing it his whole life, and I wanted to follow in his footsteps, but my stuff is more cartoony. So I do a lot of these sort of mad. I don't know what you'd compare it to. I suppose Ren and Stimpy, I suppose, but these. Yeah, so I do everything sort of traditionally. I mean, these ones were done on Procreate, but I used to do everything by hand and paint, and yeah, used to airbrush and all sorts of things like that, and very keen into photography as well. But so yeah, spent my life doing all this stuff, and then last year, a friend of mine called Scott Wetterschneider, he I think it was around this sort of time last February, he posted something online, and it was an AI picture, and I thought, oh god, what is that? It's like some Polaroid photograph from hell, and I thought, wow, I've got to at least give that a go, and I did it for a few days, and I thought, oh, I'll probably get sick of this at some point, but lo and behold, I'm a year later and I'm still doing it. It's if this is going to work or not. My connection's quite slow. So yeah, last year, where is it? Last year I brought out this book, which is called To Hell with AI, which is a collection of all the images created over the space of a year. And I mean, it's like you were saying earlier, it's immediately sort of outdated because of the new versions that come out, but it's I suppose it's a nice memento of what AI looked like at that particular point. So yeah, this is a section on my website where I've put a lot of stuff. There's an awful lot of stuff. But what I used to do growing up I would make these stories. I would illustrate these stories, and there's some of my old sort of stupid stories here. But as I got older, I would try and do some children's books. So I did a series of children's books with my wife, and another one there, and let me see, a lot of silly ones as well. So this is called The Homesick Placenta. I mean, that's pretty disgusting. And all of these sort of silly comics with stop motion puppets and everything like that. Anyway, so what the point I'm trying to get to is that when I got into the AI thing, I thought, well, I can make these stories now that would normally take me, months and months and months to make, that I can just knock one of these stories out in like less than a week now, because I've got this sort of magic power at my fingertips. So I started doing that, and I was saying with Carl earlier, is sort of trying to put I'm just trying to put my own spin on this stuff rather than just say, here's a bunch of images, what do you reckon? Because I've been doing it for a year now, and that's worn a bit thin now with me, because I've sort of seen it all, I've done it all so much. I'm kind of always impressed with how it develops and the new versions that come out, but then after a few weeks, I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. I know what it does now. It's a matter of what you can do with for me, it's a matter of what I can try and do with the results thereafter. So I put in a book together. Can you see this InDesign thing?
Yep, we can see it.
Yeah, so I'm putting a book together of all these stories. So you've got
Maybe you could zoom in on it a bit.
Sorry, yeah. So, I mean, there's a whole ton of stuff here, and it goes. There's a story of sort of like a sort of fake McDonald's story here.
It seems like we're continuing the creepy clown theme that we started
earlier.
Yeah,
there's definitely that. And there's loads of different stories. There's one about a puppeteer. and you get, there's the back history of all of the shows that he worked on, and I mean it's all very stupid and silly, and there's like the background of all the different characters and all the different the different episodes from this thing. Each story has its own kind of this one's an old toy catalog. It turns into a sort of ghost story.
Wow.
There's a whole this sort of sitcom of American sitcom screen grabs with subtitled sort of jokes underneath them. And I've also been doing sort of things with hang on, where have I got to find it now? Where are we? Sort of magazine covers and sticker books as well. I mean, a lot of the things that I used to do with some of my other stuff would be I would print things out and smash them about, then scan them back in, so they have a bit more sort of an authentic old worn look. And that's what I did with this one. I did the AI images, then Photoshop them, and then scan them out, print them out, scan them back in, and really dirtied them up, like poured coffee on them and all sorts of things. So I always feel that can't really be replicated just quite as well as you can in real life, as much as Photoshop can do all this stuff. But it just, I don't know, to me it has these sort of crumpled edges and stuff that would just take too long to do digitally. So yeah, I'm just that's what I'm doing at the moment. And where are we? And that's where I'm currently at. I've been doing other sort of bits and pieces. Hang on, where am I? Stop presenting. I've been doing a few other bits and pieces. A company in America contacted me to create a monster for a new monster movie that's coming out this autumn called Appendage. They wanted me to come up with some ideas for this monster, and that was probably about a year ago now, so that was quite early on. And did loads of different monster designs for this lady, and yeah, they turned it into, I can't show any of it because I'm not allowed to, but that'll be out soon. And I think that was their sort of their excitement at the time, was trying to be the first film that had a monster or a creation that was created from AI. I mean, it may or may not have been done beforehand, but from what we knew, it was one of the first. So that was exciting. And so yeah, that's coming out, and it's nice to see the actual model, because it's a physical puppet that was made, this big sort of like horrible gangly creature thing that was made based on a bunch of AI concepts. So that was good. And yeah, just doing little bits and pieces using AI to, I don't know, I don't want to say cutting corners, but it is a bit, isn't it, when you're using it, especially if you're using it to show clients ideas and concepts on what can and can't work, without sitting there for hours drawing something up.
Yeah, I suppose that's something that we're going to need to confront, isn't it? Which is, what's the definition of how much work you put in to get a result out that's worth putting in front of a client? Maybe the equation just changes. Could you talk a bit about, I mean, you've been in well, it sounds like you've been in the storytelling business your whole life. But can you just talk about, how you discovered AI, what your initial thoughts of it were, like what's that transition felt like as because you're kind of in both worlds right now, right? You still do kind of the traditional thing. Can you just talk about,
Yeah.
life before, then your discovery of it, and what life's been like after?
I really, when I first started using it, I found it really fascinating, and I sort of got a bit sick of it after a while, because I felt like I've always sort of over the last year, I have fallen in and out of love with it just because it feels like you're sort of cheating. You're cheating in a way, and it's sometimes hard for me to put my name on something if it's just, you get lucky with just typing in, I don't know, swan up a tree or whatever, something that's hasn't had too much thought put into it, and it's like, oh, okay, that's not really mine. That's why I'm trying to put all this extra, these other layers of stuff on top of it all to sort of claim back a little bit of the idea or the style or whatever it is, because I'm kind of feel like I'm constantly fighting that I didn't really do it in a sort of weird way. I'm sure you all have similar stances on it, or maybe not, but I just feel like it's I don't know, as much as I love it and I'm fascinated by it, there's a bit of a push pull there, but yeah, saying that, I still use it all the time, and I'm always surprised by the results. And we're doing these little stories as well that I've been writing. It's quite fun in trying to create something. If I've got an idea in my head about, the character needs to go here and then do this, and then you'll type in all this stuff to get images, and then you'll get an image that's totally opposite to what you were thinking, but just leads you in a different direction. So it's kind of like you're almost writing a story or coming up with an idea with someone else, even though that someone else is just like, just firing just nonsense at you.
Yeah, I experienced that with the images behind me, where as I was making these bizarre self-portraits, I was kind of experiencing like, oh, I want to know that guy's story, right? And it was sort of forcing me into tell that story, which is kind of an interesting approach. If you have questions for Douggy, please raise your hand. Looks like Roger's got one, but yeah, please raise your hand and let's open it up. One thing I'm curious about, because it ties into what you just talked about, is the book that you showed had a lot of writing in it, a lot of stories in it. Is that all stuff that you wrote? Are you using AI for any of the writing stuff?
No, I've totally written every single word in the book. It's
oh wow.
I haven't used the chat thing, and I don't really like that, the idea. I know you use it, and I'm sure a bunch of you guys do, but that to me is more scarier than the imagery side of things, I think, because it's I don't know, but personally, I probably would consider myself more of a writer than an illustrator, I guess. So I'm more sort of precious over my own writing than I would be over, drawing a cartoon cat or whatever. That I'd quite easily just give that over to someone rather than write something that I'd spent a lot of time on and just say, here you go. It's I don't know. I think that it's plus again, I couldn't really put my name on it if it was written by a machine. Yeah.
Okay, I guess we'll open it up to questions now. Roger, you have a question?
Hey, Doug. Thank you for coming to join us, and welcome to our group here. I wanted to follow up on a comment you sort of made in passing along the way. I realize it's probably somewhat tongue-in-cheek when you mentioned, some of the stuff was silly, that you're doing is silly and stupid. But do you feel that if the cost of following up on a creative idea is lowered, that creative people in general are going to think less about the sort of the merit of their ideas before pursuing them, and the result is there'll be more and more stuff that's just kind of random ideas being developed, whereas when there's a higher sort of barrier to entry, people just aren't going to pursue the things they don't think are going to be valuable.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm probably just speaking of myself when I say my stuff's stupid and whatever, but I'm not speaking about AI. And generally, I'm just speaking about my own stuff. But yeah, I think that there's going to be, well, there is an awful lot of this everywhere now. So it's going to be maybe a bit harder to sort of give it as much merit as you would a normal piece of piece of art or prose. It's always going to be a lower standard because of how quickly it's been made and how detached it is from the author or whoever's made it, I guess, because it's not, it's, I could quickly type in, oil painting by in the style of Cézanne or whatever, and quickly get that image, but then it's not going to be a patch on an original oil painting by Cézanne, so it's immediately lost a lot of value because of that. And plus you can just knock out hundreds of these things in a day. So yeah, I think once people know what's what, because it's it's crossing over to that point now where people are sort of getting confused over what's real and what's not. Whereas this time last year, you could quite easily tell what was an AI picture and what wasn't, because it was quite crude back then. But now I suppose you'd have to make people aware that what it is they're looking at for them to then make their judgment on it. I don't know. I think.
All right. Thanks
I
for
don't
the
know.
question,
Sorry,
Roger.
that's a terrible answer, but yeah, I'm probably not the best person to answer that because I don't know enough about it. All I know is what I've sort of been making, and I've just been using it as a silly sort of toy, really, rather than doing anything of any sort of seriousness. And
Well, I think that's fair. If you don't know, we'd
Yeah.
rather you say that than make something up, I suppose. Oscar, you have a question?
Shit. Yeah. Pardon my language. Hey, Doug. I hope everything's going. Thank you for staying up so late. Okay. All right. So I guess two questions. The first being, I don't know you outside of the context of the AI art stuff. Like that's when you came on my radar and I saw your stuff early on and I was seeing it everywhere, like on different social media, things. Like a lot of the stuff you were doing was like really cool, like the sitcom-y, weird alternative universe shit, just like amazing. So I don't know if people had an awareness of you before. You're an artist and you're doing a lot of traditional like stuff, and that stuff was into like the popular culture. But do you find that the AI stuff has like put you in like this whole different like realm of awareness, or is it just in our quadrant of like, this community and that Twitter stream? Like,
yeah, there's certainly in this field, maybe before doing all of this, I was doing a page on it's a page on Facebook and a website, but it was called Utter Filth, and it was a sort of stupid shrine to a soap character in the UK from a show called EastEnders, and I would go into the show and take clips of this character and then put him in sort of stupid situations and create fake, almost in the same way as what I'm doing now with AI, but with this character. And that became very popular over here in the UK and got shared and played on the radio and was featured in newspapers and all sorts of places like that. So that was, out of all the things that I've done, that was probably the most popular, and that went on for a couple of years, sort of 2015, 16, that sort of time. But then that, after a while, that wore thin, and it was on to the next thing. And I've sort of tried my best at doing something in each field, whether it's sort of film, script writing, photography, children's books. I've tried to do a little bit of something in each one, and I suppose this is, at the moment, this is the AI sort of section of whatever I'm doing, whatever I'm trying to do.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for the question, Oscar. Eric, you have a question?
Hey, yeah, thanks, Doug, for sharing all your stuff with us. It's really exciting. Doctor Who was the second thing that ever gave me nightmares as far as like music. Anyway, I'm not sure this is a question. This might be more of a prompt, but I noticed that you do photography, which you didn't talk about a lot, right? And the way that you're talking about AI is the way that I have felt about photography and a lot of art. So I was an artist for a long time, right? And I remember reading about, Michelangelo had to build a road to get the right marble that he wanted. Every time he made a sculpture, he had to cast his own tools, right? And when I would make a painting, I'd like buy tubes of paint from the paint store, and I would buy brushes from the, art supply store. And if I did photography, it'd be like, I didn't make the camera. I used to develop negatives and then film. And then with digital, it's like, all I did was around some buttons. And I would use video projection. It's like, I didn't make the projector. If I would collaborate with other people, it's like, well, what did I do? I brought all these people together, and now my art's a big conversation. So I just wanted to kind of get your perspective. Like, how do you feel about photography? And do you think that that's kind of at all a useful analogy for the way that we talk about what AI does and doesn't do? Because the cell phone camera has kind of opened up visual art to people who didn't have access to it or didn't have it. I'll shut up.
No, I totally get that. I did. I studied photography when I was at school, and my granddad was a amateur photographer, and he had a dark room at home, and he taught me how to black and white process and color process as well. So I spent a lot of growing up doing all that, and I suppose I've sort of learnt the actual art in processing film and developing and taking pictures and knowing how to, I don't know, compose and all these sort of things. But I understand. I see that the similarity with the AI in that you've got all these the wordings and words that you can use to then get these images. So you're kind of doing a similar thing. But yeah, I just don't know if it's a lot of the stuff that I do. It's in AI. I try not to make it look too much like a painting. It's sort of more photographic in that I kind of like to see stuff that you wouldn't normally see. So if it's a sort of a bunch of monsters eating hamburgers or whatever, whatever the thing is, it's always more fascinating to me if it's something I've never seen before. If I was typing in a sort of fantasy art or something in someone's style, a certain artist style, part of me always thinks that their stuff's going to be better than this. This is just going to be a weaker copy. So I'm kind of, to me, I feel like I'm just sort of wasting my time, really. So I'm always trying to trick it into doing well. Don't trick it, but trying to send it in a direction that is going to surprise me. But sometimes it does. Often it doesn't. But yeah, it's like I think I compared it to not photography, but I compared it to a sort of piano, in that you've got this great big thing that you didn't build or tune or whatever. You've got this thing and you've got a set of keys, and you can create a beautiful piece of music if you spend days and days in front of it learning it, and then you could say that sheet music's yours because you spent all this time creating this piece of music. So it's that's yours because you've learned how to use it, and you've got an ear for it, and but it doesn't mean that someone else who has exactly the same piano in their house can do the same thing. That whatever they do is going to be different, or it's going to be 100 times worse if they've just started. So it's that, isn't it? You're this whole AI thing is what you make of it, and how long you spend messing around on it. I guess that's just, I always find it
the best when you make mistakes on it and just find something that's that you didn't expect. Because there's at the very beginnings, a lot of people were asking me, what's your prompt on this? What's the prompt on this image? Blah blah blah. And I didn't like the thought of just handing that over, because you'd spend so long making this stuff, and the fun part is seeing the results. That to me is the sort of the whole fun of this, is seeing whatever stuff that you've written in turn into an image, rather than type in someone else's prompts and then you're going to just get a similar image. And that to me is like, well, it's not where's the fun in that? It's like buying a jigsaw puzzle that someone's already, laid out for you and made for you already. It's like, well, you've taken the fun bit out. I don't know. I'm talking rubbish.
No, I like the comparison of with the piano and the sheet music. Thanks for the prompt, Eric. Jeff Gray, you have a question?
Yes, I just had a quick question. Doug, what platform do you use? Do you use all the platforms? Do you use Midjourney? Which do you prefer?
Yeah, we were talking about this earlier with Carl when and Ken when we first started. There was Midjourney I use, and DALL-E, and in the last few weeks I've just been using the new DALL-E Experimental, I think it's called. And yeah, I was just telling them the new DALL-E, when you can get it to work, or you get a prompt that looks good, it's the very best. It's better than Midjourney. But it's not. You don't often get. Well, you do. It's becoming more often, but it's yeah, it's just. I think Midjourney's good for the sort of fantasy, mad, dreamlike stuff. It's much better than that. It's much better for that. But I don't know, when you get a good prompt on DALL-E, it's very hard to beat. It's very authentic. A lot of the Midjourney stuff I find to be a bit too stylized off a lot of the time, especially with like sort of people and sort of characters. They all sort of look, a lot of the results almost look a bit sort of staged. But the DALL-E stuff looks, I don't know, there's a sort of real sort of weirdness to it. Thank you. Looks a bit more real, I think, to me.
All right, thanks for the question, Jeff. John, you have a question?
I think some people refer to, working with, Midjourney or DALL-E or ChatGPT as sculpting. And kind of the way you're describing, and my experience with it too, is kind of that lack of precision, like directing other people. When you're working with them, you can't get them to do exactly what you want to do, but you have to leave room for them to add to it. So I kind of have a couple of sort of questions. Like, do you find techniques to get more precise? Like, if you're ever frustrated, they're like, look, I just want 2 legs on this human being, and it keeps giving me 3 or whatever it is. Or I was trying to get a lion, and it kept giving me these long legs. I don't know why. Do you ever do you find techniques and strategies to kind of get more precise? And do you have to like calm yourself down and relax when you're not getting what you think in your head, and just kind of remind yourself to kind of zen and go with it? I don't know.
Yeah, all the time.
Slippery.
Most of the pictures that are in my book have been done over and over and over again because of the new versions that have come out, and in just going back and into Midjourney and DALL-E and rewriting stuff with those little changes, just to see if I can get better, because the book that I'm doing at the moment isn't coming out until May, so I've still got a few more weeks of time to play around with it. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm going back and saying, oh, that picture there, that there could be a better pose there, or it could be funnier, I guess. So it's just going back into those images and getting the prompts back, and then just, you know, moving a word around or changing something or just changing a date. And yeah, so it is that you are, it is like, yeah, I guess sculpting, you're just constantly going backwards and forwards and sort of adding and chiseling away at it to try and get. I'm just trying to think of an example of what. There have been a few things that have just been really, really hard, and I've just given up on. I'm just trying to think now.
I always have trouble with faces and hands for whatever reason.
Yeah,
Don't make sense. Like some, you know, I did this thing the other day. I was just playing around, just trying to like switch genders on the cast of Friends. And some characters worked really well, and other ones were very hard to get to kind of some satisfying way. And I don't know why. It was one of those kind of like baffling things. Like, why is this actor more kind of giving better results in Mid-Journey as opposed to that actor? And, you know, or, you know, whether there's data out there that people are doing the same thing. So there's,
yeah,
other people that weren't popular, you know, in the same kind of world of prompts. That I don't know. It was just kind of mysterious.
Yeah, I've had
that I kind of feel like I'm swimming in.
I've had words that haven't, because I'm writing in. Well, I changed words to the American phrases and meanings, because I think that sometimes gets different results, and I've done it. I've changed words. I'm half Italian myself, so I sometimes I change the words to Italian. So if something doesn't work, and I'll change a certain word to an Italian word, and then it might work even better. I tried. I can't remember what it was. Yeah, like if a word is banned, for instance, like the word balls is banned on Mid-Journey, but obviously I'm writing it in different contexts. I might be like these big electric balls in Frankenstein's lab or something. It's like, oh, I can't write that, but then you just change the language and you sometimes get away with it.
That's true. I had the same thing. I was trying to do Courtney Cox as a man, and they said COX was banned.
Yeah.
So I had to go with the character name. I said Monica Geller as a man. And, and that worked.
I got told off for writing giant cockroach the other day because they thought it was something else.
All right, I guess I have a question, and it's not really a fully formed question, so forgive me if I struggle a little bit to kind of express it. But you were speaking earlier, and something resonated with me, that AI art generation can be a lot like piano, and the sheet music is, you know, kind of an example of, you know, something that's unique that people can create. But you also earlier kind of explained how you were hesitant about using AI for writing. And I was just maybe wondering if you could extrapolate on that a little bit. Have you tried AI writers, or is it something you're hesitant to do, in kind of the light of that piano example?
Yeah, I tried it once when they first started it, but or announced it, but I just didn't like the idea of. Well, I thought that I've got no use for this, because I couldn't. For what I do is writing stories. If I used AI for that, then that's not me at all. With the imagery that I'm making and putting my words to, I'm kind of there's still a bit of me there, but just using it for, I just wouldn't know what to use it for. So that sort of scares me in a way. I've used it a couple of times just for fun, just to ask a question, or to, I don't know, I was just mucking about with it, but it serves no purpose for me, and I wouldn't want to use it. I don't know, I just feel that what I think was saying, that to me, it feels more scarier than the imagery side of things.
Yeah, it feels more personal somehow to give that part up.
Yeah, because I couldn't. I mean, I feel part of me feels a bit reluctant to even put my name on the imagery, but as I'm putting all this stuff together, I'm thinking, well, I'm putting some effort in, so I'm going to put my name on the book. But yeah, if it was all written by a machine, then I'd be like, nah, I've got to hold my hands up. This isn't me at all. This is someone else.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I love your level of integrity of sort of figuring out where your own boundary is, right?
Yeah.
So listen, thank you for your time. I know it's very late for you. One quick question I have for you: the book that you showed, when will that be coming out?
In May.
In May?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So it'll be on your website?
Yeah. I'll put it on my website. The other one's already out, but this new one's yeah, it's a lot different.
All right, terrific. You know, it looked really exciting. I want to get my hands on it. So anyway, so what we do here is a polite golf clap for all of our speakers. So a well-earned
Yeah.
round of
Well,
applause.
thanks for having me. I'm sorry that some of the answers were a bit all over the place. I'm just yeah. I've got two little girls, and they're going to probably wake me up soon. And yeah.
Great. Well, thank you for your time. You're welcome to stay.
I will stick around for as long as I can. But yeah, it's nice to meet you all. And thank you ever so much for being so friendly and nice.
Thank you, dude.
Thanks. Great. Okay, Leah, are you ready for our new our AI Confessionals?
5-minute AI Confessionals. I am really excited about this. I think we have such a cool community here of people from different backgrounds doing different things. And one of the things I've noticed is I tend to have a very myopic approach to what I'm learning. I'm able to have time and resources to apply AI to, which is mostly the imagery stuff. And then there's so many people doing interesting things. I'm excited to hear the other sort of small places that you have found something that was an insight about AI. I'm going to show something. So this week, you guys know that I've been working on.
Before you start, Leah, can I just tee it up a little bit?
Yeah. Tee it up.
So what I would love to do is this. So I know I said this earlier. As Leah's sharing her thing, we're going to do 5-minute chunks. So Ken, you'll be our time master again. So we're going to do 5-minute little things. If you've got something that you've done in the past week or two, I want to go back to our values for a second. So there are two of them in particular. Curiosity and generosity. So I would love for you to share what you've been curious about, in exploration, what you've been exploring, and then generously share what your insights were. Like, even if it failed, or even if you didn't learn anything, it could be anything. So I encourage any of you who've got something that you've learned in the past week to do that. Leah's going to model it, and just raise your hand as she goes. And so I guess your 5 minutes starts now.
Okay. So I've been thinking a lot about making images using AI and spending a lot of time building data sets, doing that very thing, and then applying those data sets to Stable Diffusion. I haven't generally liked portraiture in Midjourney. I thought that it feels very like a Midjourney portrait, and I can't do anything with the lighting or make it look anything like my picture. So this week I started playing. So Midjourney 5 came out, and everybody's very excited about the photography in Midjourney 5. So I thought, okay, I'm going to start playing with the blend tool and just see what I can come up with. And so I just want to show you guys one of the things I did this week. And if you look at, okay, I'm having a hard time showing you. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you look at the top of this screen, there's 7 images. Using these 7 images with blending and some prompting, I then made the rest of the portraits that are on the screen. And they're a combination of using 2 or 3 of the portraits at the top of the 7 that I made traditionally with a digital camera, blended in different ways, sometimes with additional prompts to help along with location or filminess. I did this with a number of different sets of 6 to 8 images during the week and got pretty typical results. This happened very quickly. And it was eye-opening to me because I like these pictures. I think that they feel a bit like me and my style, more so than Midjourney has. And they were very frictionless to make. And that was an insight for me. That whereas I thought imagery that looked like mine was going to take a certain amount of resources and time to make, I am able to make it very quickly. That means so can everybody else. So that was my insight.
What was that the barrier to entry for someone to do this with your images was like that?
Yeah, I think that there was a certain amount of building training data sets takes a certain amount of like intention and time. So it felt like a little bit of a barrier to entry. All of the 7 images along the top, I tried out as a screenshot from my website versus an image that I have on my hard drive. And then I also realized I could also do other people's websites. And so very quickly I realized with the new blend tool in MJ5, imagery and making images is going to have a different kind of, everyone's going to make them very soon.
Maybe in just a moment or two, can you explain how you train your data set?
Yes, but that's not what these images are. These images were just blended together using Midjourney.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I was a little confused there.
Probably, yeah. I haven't talked about it before, so I don't have like my shtick down. But historically, meaning over the past 2 months, I've used 20 to 30 images that I've made to create a style set that I then apply in Stable Diffusion. These I use the blend tool in Midjourney. I just blended 2 or 3 images together. There was no training data with these images.
So you say imagine, and then you kind of upload 2 or 3 images, or you put the URLs in. Like, how does it work?
Hashtag blend is just like you would do imagine. You do blend, and then you upload 2 to 5 images, and Midjourney blends them together. A few weeks ago, one of our presenters made all of his work using 3 or 4 images that he was blending together in Midjourney.
Are you typically doing uniform blends, or are you putting weights on the images most of them?
Can you say that again, Roger?
Are you doing same amount of every image in most of these, or are you customizing the weights on the images most of the time?
They have the same amount of weight. I'm not giving any additional weight one way or the other. I am sometimes using the images generated to blend together or blend with the original images to make more images.
So I know you and I have talked about this a little, but I mean, this feels kind of existential. You've been a photographer for some time. You're quite accomplished at it. Like, you said your insight was that this is, a little scary. Like, what's going on? Like, what's going on with you with this? Like, where's your head with it?
I think that for the first time in a very long time, I'm not planning what the next year looks like, what's the next 2 years looks like, what the next 4 years look like. I think that we have no idea what's about to happen to the photography market. And every day I'm just kind of showing up for what's there. I am thinking critically about what next steps might be that wouldn't be working as a photographer. I think I'll always be a photographer, but in terms of clients bringing me on, the top 7 images are all images that were part of client image projects. So they were all part of their commissioned by clients and brands to shoot. And so it feels like what my hope is that I'm still commissioned to create the images. I'm just doing it using AI versus a camera. So that is my plan, and we'll see how that goes.
Great.
All right, thanks. And
I have a question. Sorry, if I skipped the hand raising line. Let me raise my hand. Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead. We'll take your question and then we'll move on to the next presenter.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was just gonna add. I know that you were questioning IP rights and with some of your other approaches, and I'm wondering how you're feeling about IP in this regard, since they're all starting as your images, but it's still going through the mid-journey process.
I think that I still believe that I would like to try to make a master data set using all of my IP that I've made, which is about 500,000 images. That's harder to do than that's a hard thing to do. I am still very interested in doing that. The IP here gets much more complicated because I am using the Midjourney data. I mean, according to the Copyright Office, I wouldn't actually have authorship of these images as of right now.
But I just feel like that's such a strange thing in this space, saying that all of the, well, I guess it's not all of the content, but because it's blending your images, isn't that different than it creating it from its mind?
Yeah, and I think the images look like they were created from my images. Like, I think what I was surprised by was how the images I made really do look like they came from the initial 7 source images. And so they do feel like my images. And I wonder if that would stand up as being the author.
I was going to say, and also they are of the person that you are trying to give, the client, basically. So it's not like those images existed in the Midjourney's mind before you presented them. I feel like it would stand up a little different than, a completely generated image.
I hope so.
Awesome. Thanks, Leah. Okay, so that's the basic idea. So you can stop sharing your screen now.
Okay.
Thank you for doing that. So what I realized is we've got a hand-raising situation here. So I have an idea. So if you want to do a 5-minute AI confessional, raise your hand officially with a hand-raising thing. And then as that person as that person is talking in their 5 minutes, if you have questions for that person, just put those in the chat, and then
okay.
And then we can call on you. So Jane, you had your hand raised. Are you willing to do a little AI for us? Awesome.
I
Great.
am.
So,
Yeah. So I'm a content writer, and I started using I've been using ChatGPT for a couple months, and it totally just propelled the work that I do. So with a lot of my work, I have to be able to explain complex ideas into simple language that an ordinary person can understand. And before AI, I'd have to do that research on Google and sift through a bunch of articles, and then some of them have fluff because it's search engine optimization. And now with ChatGPT, I get that information in seconds. I did a project last month, where it helped me just do some research just on technical terms, nothing too data, mostly just language and ideas. And I probably saved myself 2 hours of research on that. And that was 2 hours that I was then able to allocate towards being more creative and enhancing the creative quality of the work. And so I really feel like the client got some value out of that, because that person was paying for my time. So instead of having them pay me to sift through Google for 2 hours, I was able to give them really quality work for 2 hours. And then, another client, this was my one this week that was really scary. It was just how I've been pushing the boundary of what I can do with it and the input that I put into it, what I can get out of it. And I had that existential whoa, do I even have to work for this? And I even told the client, was hey, I'm using this, how do you feel about it? And so we kind of had an exchange. I thought the best thing to do was to be transparent with them, because there's still, with writing, there's still a lot of reservations about it. And because plagiarism is a huge thing, in my line of work. And so I thought the best thing to do was just be upfront and have that conversation with the client and kind of figure out, what the boundaries were. But again, this client, he's scaling up and he's giving me more work to do, and I'm able to keep up with that, workload because I'm using this tool. I can't imagine. I mean, I can do it, but my head would be spinning. So I really kind of resonate with some of the things that Dougie said, especially about like, he really likes the writing process. And there's still a lot of, with writing, there's still a lot of fear about what it like, oh, it can just write this thing for me. And like, no, not really. Like, you still have to have the human element. You still have to put your own work into it. I write fiction also, and I don't use it like ChatGPT because it's so personal. So there's, it's not, it's scary, it's weird, but it's like not as, it's really like, if you get on it, is I think demystifying it. And I'm what I want to figure out, what my role in this is to figure out is like, how can I demystify it for people and help them understand it's not this big scary thing. So yeah, I think Kyle says he has a question.
Yeah, so mine is about the extra 2 hours that you got. I find a similar sort of thing where I'm finding the AI, whether it's images or words, is letting me stay at a higher creative plane. Like it's sort of knocking out some of the more mundane stuff and letting me live up there. Like, are you finding that you sort of are in a more actively creative space because of it, or is that fleeting because you're doing it so much?
Man, that's a great question. It kind of goes back and forth. Like, sometimes I feel like I'm getting lazy, like I'm depending on it too much. Like, am I even a writer? I'm just like plugging stuff into a machine. I think it really depends on how much I have to edit, like how much work. I think it just depends on how much work I have to do to edit. It's almost like, it creates the draft for me, and then I kind of clean it up. And the more time I spend cleaning it up, the more creative I can be. I think for this one client, what I do is very like objective. It's like factual. And so it's just like, here are things that happen versus something that's like website copy where, I'm trying to sell something for somebody. Then I have to be creative. So I guess it really depends on whatever the content is.
And we're at a 5-minute mark, so we'll take Leah's question and then move on.
I was curious if you find that you're running into issues of accuracy in the information that you're getting.
Yeah, that's a great question too. So interesting, like I've been comparing ChatGPT to Bard, and I've been like comparing those two. Bard is pretty cool. I like Bard. I don't know if the answers are great, but I like the user experience. And I do kind of back up like with a Google search, like, just to see what Google pulls up and kind of compare the two. And so far haven't had any issues with it. As long as it's just things like terminology, like what does this word mean? What are these things? And not like, what did President Biden say today? Like I don't look up stuff like that. So yeah, I still recommend like it's a secondary, source and backing it up with something.
All right, perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jane. And we'll move on to the next presenter, Oscar.
Mic check.
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, if we're talking about the last week, it's been a horror show of sorts with the constant series of revelations in the AI space, so dramatically transforming what's going to happen. I'm going to sound like a crazy person, and I'm glad this is being recorded because
you heard it here first.
Yeah, no, you didn't hear it here first, but you've seen a lot of movies, so you know the gist of it, whatever. But at some point during the last 14 days or 7 days, OpenAI announced that they were putting in support for APIs and that they were integrating the API for Python. They were integrating the API for Wolfram Alpha. They were integrating the Python one, the LangChain one. This is important. If you get a chance, LangChain and Pinecone. So basically what's about to happen is that any job function that can be connected to an API will be reproducible, and the only cost, the only real barrier to like how much it takes to say replace your accountant with an API is how many compute cycles it takes to get the AI to figure out how to properly use the API in order to process your spreadsheet from TurboTax, which has the Zapier plugin, yada, yada, yada. Zapier is also being integrated into ChatGPT.
So you're talking, just to clarify, Oscar, you're talking about the plugins, not the not APIs. It's the plugins.
No, it's the plugins, it's the API, and it's also the fact that more likely than not, we all know that OpenAI is not allowing us to see the actual version of GPT-X or ChatGPT-X that they're working with. Either, this is going to sound stupid, they're doing pair programming with their latest version of ChatGPT or Codex. So they're developing their own stuff, which includes developing the generative model stuff and improving how models are trained up with the models that they're using. And then they're putting those back into production to improve what they're doing. They're doing the exact same thing, or someone will be doing the exact same thing with their C-suite eventually, with their company, a company, whatever the company does. The company makes t-shirts. The company sells sex toys. The company does Shutterstock. It does Shutterstock. I'm setting up a online tarot. I'm not telling you the URL, but it's mytarot.ai. And if you steal it, we know who stole it. It was somebody from here, but mytarot.ai. And it's going to allow you to basically have a personalized tarot journey that goes from day one to day whatever and can factor in all that stuff. Your job, any call center, any banking center, that can eventually be reduced down to how many cycles it takes to figure out how to get an API to emulate the voice, to read the image on the screen, to do anything. It's going to be outsourced by capitalists. So look into universal basic income as quickly as possible. That being said, yeah, learn LangChain, start working with setting up chatbots that do the functions that websites would have done for somebody. Learn how to integrate that stuff with WhatsApp or I guess Telegram or whatever other signaling applications allow you to have a communicative natural language experience with a bot. Look into Alpaca from Stanford, look into Llama, but get really good at prompting and prompting templates, and get really good at teaching ChatGPT to help you write your prompting templates when you're setting up your LangChain so you can create the things that will eventually displace everyone from their actual jobs. I will take questions if there's any time available.
I have a question. So for someone who's a photographer and not a computer whiz, could you tell me a little bit more about what this will look like in 2 months from now, from my perspective, using it, and what it'll look like in 4 months from now, and what it'll look like in a year from now? What will my experience be with this?
Okay, so we're looking at 365 days working back to next month.
Okay.
All right, so we've got Lexica, we've got Leonardo, we've got Stable Diffusion, and we've got Midjourney and all that stuff. So I'm guessing that someone else is going to stand up another thorn in Getty's side. Firefly just went up from Adobe.
Yep.
There's going to be two paths. I would say learn the data-driven side of how to do as many permutations that you can guide through stuff like right now the control net, for example, with Stable Diffusion, things that allow you to have hyper control over what you can do. I would say in the next 3 to 6 months, probably 6 months, look at someone else that would be technically able to legally fuck up Getty, or legally fuck up you completely by being able to programmatically do 1 million images and have that be totally guided. So you don't have to learn the technology of it. You just have to learn how to puppeteer it.
You need
All
to
right,
learn how to
thanks.
ask it for what you want.
Yeah, I think the dangerous thing is to refuse to shift at this point. There's going to be a lot of people who refuse to say that like engineering can't be taken over, the customer human interaction can't be taken over, photography can't be taken over.
Well, so then
Yeah.
what you're saying is within 6
Well,
months.
we've hit the 6-minute mark, so let's move on to the next
Follow
presenter.
us.
We've got some people that want to go. Charlie, you're up.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Well, I've got a very small, quite modest, my first use. I'm sort of building on what Jane and Kyle were saying. I'm at least initially hoping that I can become fluent in the various AI assisted tools to basically help me work better and faster and get more done. Let me share a very mundane issue that a project that I'm working on. It's my first. Okay. Here we go. 1 second. Okay, that's not going to happen. Okay, basically, I am creating sort of some profiles of users, and I am using the Stable Diffusion graphic generator to come up with some hand drawings of people's faces, and choosing pictures of people to represent a type of customer is usually fraught because there's a lot that gets encoded with that. So I am using this, or attempting to use it, to generate what look like hand drawings, cartoon style heads, and multiples of them. And I'm kind of interested that hey, I can, for sort of illustration purposes, this could be a real time saver. And looking ahead at what I do, I'm hopeful that I can use ChatGPT to perhaps somehow ingest, say I've got 40 transcripts of customer interviews. I would love ChatGPT to maybe ingest that somehow and give me a meaningful summary, where it can understand that two people who use different phrases are actually talking about the same thing, and sort of roll up the totals of what's the top 10 things people are pissed off about. It's so lots and lots of ways that maybe the combing through, summarizing of material can save time. And looking a bit further out, I'm very impressed with the art that everyone's doing. I would love to begin working on something purely in the creative realm, and I'm interested to see if stories that I might have, or ideas for stories might maybe I could develop that without on my own, in the sense that it could get to a point where people could look at it and see the story. I hope I'm explaining myself.
Yeah, no,
but
you're clear. Go into in the Discord, in the prompt crafting channel. I put a video in there, I think today, so it should be recently at the top, about someone used GPT-4 to create essentially a prompt collaborator for Midjourney. So
right.
if you're good with the words in the prompt crafting channel, there's something there that could help with that.
That would be great. That would be great.
Hey, Charles.
Yo.
You said you were looking to ingest like 40 transcripts and then be able to interact with them, or chat with them.
I would like a summary of across all 40 people that I spoke with, what are the top issues?
Yeah. Look at LangChain.
Okay.
There's a very straightforward way of like feeding that in and then having it like.
Well, thank you.
All right. Do we have any questions? Any other questions for Charles? Okay. Thanks, Charles. We appreciate it. Eric Rowland, you're up to present next.
Hi. Yeah, what Oscar's saying about LangChain is absolutely true. So that's what I was going to talk about. So again, like my company does stuff that, or we do data mining for marketing and legal. So on the marketing side, you know, I've been trying to figure out how I can apply generative AI and everything that I'm seeing. And so I've been going through this process of, I had a client call me about doing some reviews of restaurants. And so, you know, take Yelp data, right? Like Oscar was saying, you can put that into a vector database, and then you can ask questions about it. And so, yeah, I'm putting that data in there along with metadata and setting up a simple little query interface for them using a thing called Gradio. So, you know, you're working in Python and you can quickly publish an app. And so I'm experimenting with that and seeing if that sort of satisfies his client's marketing need. And it sort of replaces the old way we would do it, because, you know, we'd have to maybe like generate some machine learning models, pick out all the topics, and, you know, you can use GPT for topic extraction, which is a big thing to do when you're trying to figure stuff out. So it's a really exciting time, and I'm trying to, yeah, again, think of all the different ways that I can apply it. And certainly LLMs are like super helpful.
Well, I immediately have a question, because I'm familiar with like the machine learning process and finding main topics that way, but I'm not so familiar with LangChain. So maybe maybe you can just kind of explain, as someone I've never used LangChain before, what is the kind of like the difference between the machine learning approach and a LangChain approach?
Well, they're not mutually exclusive, right? So LangChain is just the ability to chain multiple actions together. So like Oscar was talking about the plugins on OpenAI, right? So you can plug in Zapier and this and that and like send something off to Slack. Well, LangChain is sort of like the Android version of that, because you can pull all these different things and chain it together however you wish, usually in Python, right? So you're writing Python. And, you know, like I think Charles had mentioned the summaries, right? And then Oliver said, look in LangChain. So what you do is you take, you know, let's say I had 1,000 PDF documents. I take those 1,000 PDF documents and I would, you know, extract all the text out of those. I would create summaries of those, and then I would create a master summary of everything. And I could, you know, along this path, I could be pulling out the topics, and then you can trace those topics back, you know, to the originating document. So if you have this QA system, you can provide citations. And so that's like when I'm mentioning metadata, that way I can say, oh, go back and look at, you know, look at this particular like reference. And
Eric, can I interject something real quick?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so the problem is that, you know, the limit when you hit with GPT, it's like, that's too much text, leave me alone. So you've got to blast a huge document into a bunch of little chunks that has a bit of overlap with each one of those chunks, and it's got metadata, like Eric said, which kind of identifies, you know, this chapter, this summary, kind of what was going on here. So then it can then hit that index, look for the chunk, then scan around where that chunk is, and then return back based on its understanding of that area. Use like the ChatGPT, like I'm now going to look at that and pull that information back, and also point to where in the document that was. So basically it's taking it, splitting it, indexing it, and then the vectorizing, it's turning words and questions into vectors that are then cast in a similar direction, because based on it's weird, but LangChain is the dominant framework, and it's very recent, the last 6 months maybe.
Yeah, so
that's really interesting.
So I can share a GitHub repo. I did a video summarization of a court case, and so I wanted to use GPT to summarize like a 7-hour-long video. And so, yeah, exactly what Oscar's saying. You have to chunk it into pieces. But LangChain has a thing that does that for you. Like, you don't have to reinvent that wheel. But what it allowed me to do is to put all the all the information from the transcript. And then you could ask a question like I did the Alex Murdoch trial. So you could say like, who called 911? And it would show you that point, you know, in time in the video. And so you could go back and reference the actual video, because what I found out is that even GPT-4 hallucinates in summarization, and it does so frequently in very subtle ways, just like you're talking about image generation. Like you're like, gosh, if I only had 2 legs instead of 3, this would be perfect. But you can't get down to 2. And so like it'll do the same things with a long summary. So you have to be careful about it. And so, you know, that's what I'm trying to explore is like, you know, where can I apply it directly? Where can it shortcut generating like, you know, traditional ML models? But I'll shut up because I don't want to take everybody's space. But
what I would request, Eric, if you're not in the Discord, my request would be to join it. And you know, if you could share any resources on this, or even just, you know, share what you're doing so we can continue the dialogue, that would be great.
Yeah, I'll go ahead. I am on Discord. I've been a lurker, so I will I will post something in there. But I'll also throw something in this meeting so everybody can, like, if they want to take a look at how I did it, or like ever discuss it. Like I'm fascinated by this stuff, and I think it, you know, it's changing the way that I'm working. I think it's going to change the way we're all working.
That's great. Awesome. Thank you.
Right.
That was awesome.
Perfect. Thanks, Eric. DG, you got something that you want to present?
Yeah, it's not so much presenting, and hello everybody. As always, this is great, but you know, in the spirit of like sharing, I guess, you know, epiphanies, you know, I'm actually quite bullish on things, having played with you know, ChatGPT-4 more over the last couple of weeks, in terms of not just my copywriting side, which is one thing I do, but also the creative writing side, where I work in a lot of comic books. And so, you know, from that point of view, I'm finding the storytelling mechanisms, you know, to play things out. It's great at tropes. You know, it creates these lovely structures where, you know, cyborgs take over the earth. And if you're going to do a heist, you know, you've got some, have somebody dangle from a wire, you know, and go into it. So, you know, it knows all the things that we've seen, but I don't feel at risk, you know, in the sense of, you know, that it's going to take away my creativity. It's a nice sounding board. It helps me structure things. It helps me play out some scenarios. You know, I feed it, you know, here's my character. Here's the world view. Here's what happens in issue 1. Here's what happens in issue 2. Now what might happen? Here's a bunch of tropes. Oh, those are good things to sort of like, you know, work against. But, you know, it's me, I feel, that is still, you know, spinning up a bit more of a faster and light engine that has the unique take on it, which I think is very encouraging, at least to me, and should be encouraging to others. And, you know, in the sense of that, you know, I'm also very bearish on, you know, not going down the road of redefining myself as a prompt engineer or some other, excuse me, bullshit term, you know, when writer and storyteller has worked out perfectly well for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And I think that the defining character of all of us, and this gets back a little to the artist, you know, end of it, Kyle, but, you know, you know, just in the sense of, you know, that's, I think, a very powerful thing for where many of us are coming from, to continue to say, you know, I'm a writer who knows all about this stuff. I'm a photographer who knows all about this stuff. I'm a visualist. I'm an artist, you know, who has the ability to put this to work. A couple of weeks ago, I can't remember, you know, one of our presenters, you know, said, you know, AI is not going to replace, you know, marketers, but marketers who know AI are going to replace marketers who don't. Anyway, that's been my sort of, you know, mini personal journey, and you know, excited to kind of see where it goes with, especially the storytelling end of it. The copywriting end of it, you know, is its own, you know, box of crackers.
All right, I think Jane has a question.
Yes, Jane.
Yeah. So you were saying that with your kind of storytelling that you like it helps you play out scenarios. Can you give any examples of prompts that you put in, or how you, like, what kind of input you give it?
Sure. And I don't think these are, you know, anything that everyone doesn't know. You know, it's you know, it's the sort of thing, you know, you are this, you know, I am doing this, you know, you are a storyteller, I'm a storyteller, you know, we're creating a cyberpunk adventure, you know, a thriller, you know, in this way. Here's what my main character, you know, is. Here are the abilities, you know, she may have. Here's the world of what they're in. so a lot of feeding it, sort of the
Okay.
situations. Do you understand? Kind of leading it along the way. Sometimes it jumps ahead, and I'll tell it to kind of, oh, slow down. I don't need you to kind of create that, and back and forth. And I found that the fact that it can remember those and the history, I can return to it later and say, hey, let's get back to, character X. Let's talk a little bit more about where she is now. What if we used her abilities to do this? And sounding board out, some scenarios, which then I've come up with separately. And I said, I'm either in a corner, or I just want a writing partner and to soundboard that out. Again, I'd say 50% of the time, it's like, okay, I've seen that. Thank you very much. But now and again, it's either a structural thing I forgot, hey, what if she had a mentor? Oh yeah, maybe she should have a mentor. That type of thing. That's a good little trigger. But it's that sort of thing. Happy to talk to you more about it separately.
Okay, that's crazy. Okay, my mind just exploded. No big deal.
No big deal. Boom.
No big
Glad
deal.
I can help.
I have a question, I guess, kind of piggybacking off of that. Do you use when you're putting in the prompts, do you use other authors as examples, as similarly like you would with pictures, Greg Rakowski, etc.?
No, never. I mean, in the sense, when I first started writing certain things fiction-wise, creatively, I think we all do this. You type out a Stephen King story because you want to write horror. You put yourself in the groove of it. That type of thing. I'm well past that point, I hope. And I want it to be my world. So I put in sections of my stuff, right? I've said here's my description of, like I said, issue 1 of this comic book. But I've not, said, write like Elmore Leonard or something like that. I have no interest in that.
Okay, great. Thanks. I guess we will move on now to the next presenter. Roger, you got something you want to speak on?
Yeah, so I'm going to go a little bit different direction than most of these. This is fits within Kyle's brief, but less so within Leah's narrower brief of what we're doing here. This isn't so much about stuff I've been creating. It's pretty much I just fiddle around on the Discord. This is more about the whole how gloom and doomy should we be about the future of AI and humanity and stuff like that. And so 2 things I want to say about that. One is taking off from what Oscar was talking about with these new plugins. I personally think the greatest significance of them is on the downside, because up till a few days ago when this was announced, when people would talk about their hiding under the bed fears about AI, it was always about AI going off on its own and doing things that would cause problems. And every time people would say that, I would reply that AIs can't do anything other than type text to you. And you're welcome to ignore that. Well, the introduction of these APIs crossed a big, bright, bold line, which is now a plugin can do things. Basically, anything that can be done over the internet, in theory, can be done by a plugin. Now, if you ask OpenAI, they're going to say, "Oh yeah, we know about this. We're putting in sandboxing and all this kind of stuff." Well, we've been here before. When web browsers were first given the ability to do things on your behalf, on behalf of another website, but on your machine, using a program language called Java and later JavaScript, the exact same set of issues came up. Well, how do we keep them from doing horrible things in your machine? And they put up all kinds of walls around them, and mostly that stuff worked, but not perfectly. And it took a long time to, who knows if we've gotten to the end of the long tail of problems. But the idea that you can anticipate every way that people might get around your security and have these things get loose is ridiculous. And this history does not support that optimism. So I think the idea that people are going to be able to enable a plugin to do things in the real world without confirming with them, what they're going to do is terrifying. And, on the low end of the scale, it's just going to do a lot of really annoying things people don't like. On the high end of the scale, it could be, if a bad actor is essentially introducing malware into the system, then it can be doing arbitrarily bad and dangerous things. So, you know, that to me was by far the greatest significance of this announcement. Yes, it's really cool that it will, you know, that extend its data gathering capability and able to do good things for you. But I think that it's a fundamental change in the potential danger of AI systems versus before it was introduced. I see Oscar waving his hand.
Yeah, sure. So Roger, do you believe in a benevolent form of dystopian, you know, lordship? You know, like let's say that no. I'm being like totally like let's say that, you know, you hyper optimize a dystopia where things work just well enough where, you know, the gruel, you know, can come in chicken, beef, or lemon flavor. Like, are you okay with things being on autopilot where they're better, but you have no real autonomy? Or are you really totally concerned that it's going to go off the rails and start eating babies? Because I'm of a certain mindset, but I'm just curious where you're at.
I'm pretty big on human autonomy. I mean, I can't theoretically rule out the possibility that we could all, and all future generations, could be happy in an autonomy-free universe, but I consider that to be at best an unproven supposition. And there's an awful lot that suggests that people don't do well with a total absence of autonomy. So yeah, I'm not too big on that. That's a great lead into the second thing I want to talk about briefly. I'm running out of time here, which is I finally found a major thinker in the world of AI stuff who aligns with my thoughts on this stuff. This guy, a Berkeley AI researcher named Stuart Russell. And I posted a link to a talk he's going to be giving in just a couple weeks that is going to be live streamed on YouTube. Plus, he's already got some stuff on YouTube and stuff. And he has a less alarmist, but in some ways, because it's less alarmist, more ultimately disturbing view of things that basically doesn't require things like sentience, and it sort of puts this whole alignment issue, which personally I just hate the idea, because it presumes that AIs have things like intention and goals and stuff, which they don't, and they probably aren't in a long time. His point is you don't need any of those things to have big problems. All you need is something that is too good of a tool for mere humans to wield. And that if you make it too easy for people to pursue their goals, and you remove too much of the friction from how the world works so that you can just think something and make it happen, people aren't good with that. People need a delay between wanting something and getting it. And if you don't have that delay, terrible, terrible things can happen. And I think that's a really interesting take on this, that it's not so much about the technology itself taking over, it's about it allowing ourselves to hurt ourselves.
That's a very good point. We're at the 6-minute mark. Thanks, Roger. So, Doug, you're up next.
Yeah. So I'm using generative AI. One thing that I'm finding valuable is to grant writing. So we had a grant that usually would have taken me about 40 hours to work on. And I was able to create in about 5 to 8 hours. I also added a video. I used Synthesia. Actually, the idea was the grant was related to nursing, to marginalized communities, and something that had to be innovative. So what I did is one of the big problems of medicine in general is 50% of people don't follow their medical treatment plans, and either because it's confusing, patient education, they don't feel up to it or whatever, or costs, those kinds of things. So the idea would be is you would have a nurse that would write a very short, especially for younger people, to have their treatment plan, and then use generative AI to make it as simple, targeted to the vocabulary of the person in the marginalized community. And then you can actually even put it into a video. So I was using Synthesia, and so I said, okay, given here's the treatment plan, now write a script for an avatar. So I used an avatar that was a 19-year-old female. And the script I wrote was a treatment plan for a 15-year-old girl teenager who has diabetes. And so what, suggests a sample treatment plan. And so then create this video that's funny, encouraging and relatable to this teenager. And, teenagers, they want to focus on, in the old days it was texting, now it's in videos, right? They spend a lot of their time on TikTok and other short videos. So creating these short videos to do these nudges. So anyway, that's the idea, and we'll see. We submitted the grant idea, and we'll see what happens if it gets selected.
Awesome. I think Jane has a question for you.
Sure.
Yeah. So you said that with the grant writing, that's something that took you 40 hours, took you what, like 5 to 8 hours?
Yeah.
What did
Yeah.
you do with that time that you saved? Do you feel like it helped you do your job better? Like gave you more value? Like were you able to do something that like helps people?
Right. Well, I create more grants, so hopefully
There
get
you
some more
go.
funding. But actually, what happened was I got a call and they said, "Okay, we need this grant written." And I go, "Okay, how much time do we have?" And they say it's due tomorrow. And
Yeah.
so it's like, there was no way I could have got it written. And the nice thing is if you have boilerplate grant language, or you can take, like a lot of times grants, or customer care or whatever, they have specific questions. So you can say, you load your boilerplate language into, like, there's chat PDF, and you say, okay, my boilerplate language. Now here is the specific question the grant is asking, and letting chat GPT do that first draft.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. Yeah.
So if you have boilerplate language to translate into specific grant language, or any questions people are asking, it's a way to quickly get a first draft of that language.
I feel like that is like that kind of time saving piece is a conversation we need to be having as far as the work, because people are so focused on, oh, it's going to take the job away. It's like, no, it's technology is supposed to be unleashing human potential. Like we have washing machines so that we don't have to hand wash our stupid clothes all the time. And now we can do better, like build machines or whatever, do better things. So I feel like that needs to be introduced into the conversation.
Yeah, I'd rather go take a bike ride than spend 5 hours writing a grant.
Right?
Yeah.
Spend a whole week on a grant. Exactly. Yeah,
Exactly.
spend time with your kids, whatever. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any other questions, Kyle? Or maybe that's
No, amazing.
Okay.
All right. I guess we'll move on to the last presenter of the night, which is, or speaker of the night, which is Kyle.
Yeah, so I'll just do this really quick. So I had this experience last night, and I'll share my screen. So what do I say? Okay, so I watched it. I listened to a Twitter Spaces last night. It was talking about the plugins. It was an emergency Twitter Spaces about GPT plugins, and 2,000 engineers showed up to this emergency spaces. So I listened to the thing. The first thing that was said was somebody took ChatGPT and said, take these video assets, send them to FFmpeg and edit a movie together and send it back. And it did it. And that's what my business is all about. So right now we use XML to generate our videos, and we send it to a third-party service that uses FFmpeg, but we're using their APIs and their XML. So I went into GPT. I thought it was GPT-4, but it's actually GPT 3.5. And I pasted in the XML from one of our videos. And then I said to ChatGPT, somewhere at the bottom of this XML, can you tell me what this XML does? And it says, sure. It makes a movie, and it tells me what's in it. It's got video overlays. It's got text labels. So it parsed the XML and told me what it did. Then I said, if I wanted to write Python code that takes this XML as input with the assets and sends that to FFmpeg for processing, could to return a rendered video, can you help with that? It said, sure. Here's the Python to parse the XML. Here's the Python to pull the data out of out of your XML, and then here's the code to do it, and here's how that code works. Then I said, in very inarticulate language, the current XML that we use uses a timeline metaphor. We use a story beat metaphor. Can you help me rewrite the XML schema to match the way we work? And it did it, and it did it perfectly, including the variables that it pulled out of the original thing. So I just wanted to share this because this was, for me, a major source of anxiety for my company to shift to our own rendering engine. And I figured it would be 6 months of a nightmare. And in like literally 5 minutes, I now understand the path forward for how to write our own system. So I just wanted to share that because it's remarkable. Anyway, we're out of time. I said I'd only take a minute. I took 3. Thank you all very much. I'm going to do something here. Oh, Jane's got a quick question.
I was clapping. I was trying to clap.
Oh, okay.
Wrong hand.
Great.
Wrong hand.
So one thing we're going to start officially next meeting is something we're calling the after party, which on Discord there is a voice there's a voice chat. You can go there and hang out. So informally, I'll invite you right now. If you want to go out and continue the conversation, just hop over to Discord and hop in the voice chat and do that. We'll have an official host next week. We don't have someone tonight. I've got to pack up the building here. But Leah, thank you very much. This was really fun. It was really great to know everyone. Any final words from you?
I really appreciate the 5 minutes we took at the end to get to know what people are thinking about. The wisdom in this group is mind blowing. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. And you kind of said it, Leah. The small thing that you learned is absolutely massive to someone else, right? That happened with Jane and whoever was talking, and Jane was like mind blown, right? So the thing that you feel is small is actually big. So I thought this was absolutely huge. So thank you, and thank you all for participating. Head to Discord. Ken just put a link to a survey in the chat there. If you would kindly take our survey and tell us how awesome or not we did. It's really easy. You pick on smiley faces, and then you can tell us what your thoughts. We want to make sure we're doing these better and better each time. So with that, I think we'll wrap it up. Thank you all very, very much, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everybody. I got no.